This video is brought to you by Dr. Kristen R. Bromley's Guitar Method Book Series and Online Music Academy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. I'm delighted to be here helping you with playing the guitar. In this video, I'm going to go over some important things you need to know and understand as you're getting started with reading standard music notation on the guitar. This video does accompany Lesson 1 from my Note Reading Books 1 and 2 Method book. So if you have that book, you're going to want to turn to pages 7, 8, and 9. This video complements or accompanies what's on those pages, starting on page 7. The first thing you need to know and understand as you're getting started with reading standard music notation is that there are 12 different distinct pitches or notes. So these are the individual sounds that we hear in music, and they're known as notes or pitches. Now it's really easy to hear each of the 12 different sounds. You can go to any string on the guitar, start at the 1st fret, play all the way to the 12th fret, and you'll hear each of those 12 different sounds. So on the low 6th string, if I start at the 1st fret, and as I'm doing this, I want to mention if you need help with frets and strings, how to tune the guitar, any of those things, check out the introductory materials that go with the Note Reading book, as well as the Chords and Harmony book and the Tablature book. So there are videos out there that can help you with tuning the guitar, understanding frets and the different parts of the guitar, all those different types of things. I'm not going to explain that here. But starting there in the 1st fret on that low 6th string, if I play all 12 frets from there, or up to the 12th fret, I'm going to get those 12 different sounds. So I'm at the 1st fret, then the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and up to 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. You can hear 12 different sounds. If I go on to the 13th fret, I've started over with the same note or pitch that I had at the 1st fret, only it's in a higher range. So we can get these individual sounds in different ranges. As we move through those ranges, we call them octaves. And the different octaves that happen within an instrument depend on its individual range. With the guitar, for example, it starts on a low E string in standard tuning, and then it has another E in a higher range, and then it's got one higher, and then we've got one even higher, and then it goes up not all the way to E. The guitar has about 3.5-ish octaves of notes that happen on the guitar, depending on the actual instrument you have and how many frets it has, how high up it goes as far as fret numbers. So with that, we've got these 12 different pitches. From those 12 pitches or notes, 7 of them are known as natural notes, and each one of those natural notes has a letter name. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Then the other 5 pitches that happen sit in between those, and the names of those notes are in relation to how they compare to where they sit in relation to the natural notes. So on the piano, this is really easy to see. On the guitar, it's not, but on the piano, it's easy to see. All the white keys are the natural notes. And then on the piano, they're usually black keys, but they sit in between some of those white notes. Those 5 black keys are these other pitches. Some people might call them chromatic pitches, because we're going to refer to them as sharps or flats in relation to the natural notes. So, for example, between A and B, there is a pitch which could be known as A sharp or B flat. And so sharp looks like a pound sign or a hashtag sign. This is a sharp. It's 1 fret higher on guitar, but it's 1 pitch or 1 half step higher than the natural note. And so if I said A sharp, I'm talking about a pitch that sits in between A and B. Also, with the flats, you have this flat sign, so we could have a B flat is another name for that same pitch. Flats are 1 fret lower or 1 half step lower, 1 note lower in that chromatic scale is what I had played when we play all 12 pitches. So the pitch that sits in between A and B could be known as A sharp because it's just higher than A, or B flat because it's just lower than B. We have these pitches sitting in between A and B. There isn't one between B and C, but there is between C and D, D and E. There isn't one between E and F, but there is one between F and G, and then there's one between G and A. So as we continue through our alphabet, our musical alphabet, so to speak, starts over and over. As we're learning to play the guitar, we're just going to be learning a couple notes in a given range at a time. And we're going to start out with the natural notes, and then we'll learn sharps and flats later. So the way this happens in written notation notation is you have something known as a staff. A staff is a collection of 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each of those lines and each space in between the lines represents a given pitch. All by itself, we're just talking natural pitches. And then if sitting with that pitch, we see on that line or on that space, we see the sharp sign or flat sign, then we know we're actually doing the sharp or flat that sits in relation to the natural pitches. So, we on guitar read in what's called treble clef. That's this clef sign right here. So those 5 lines and 5 spaces could represent lots of different pitches. There's different clefs. So we'll have a clef sign to tell us which notes each of those lines and spaces represent. On guitar, we generally read in treble clef, so that's all I'm going to worry about here. You will see on pages 7 and 8 an example with a bass clef, but we're doing treble clef here. So when we see this clef sign, which is the sign that this is the staff that we read guitar music on, then we know what pitches each of those lines and spaces represent. And starting down below these 5 lines, D for down under the staff, you could think of it that way, the space that sits right below that staff is a D pitch. Then it just goes alphabetically right on up the scale. So then we have F is the lowest line, F is that lowest space, G is the next line, then A. Now, once we get to G, we start over again with our musical alphabet. So we're up to A, B, C, D, and so on. Sitting on top, that top space above the staff is a G. Now, we can extend below and above the staff, in addition to the spaces that sit above and below that staff, using what we call ledger lines, or little lines that help us keep track of that. We're not going to be playing with ledger lines on the guitar for quite a while, so I'm not going to worry about that here, but we'll be getting into that when we're reading notes that extend above and below the staff. As we get started on guitar, we're actually just going to be starting with this top space, top line, and then that space, that G note that sits above it. That's where we're going to be starting, then we'll just be gradually adding more notes to what we're reading. So it's going to be great. With this, how this works is that drawn on the staff, you're not going to see the letters like I have it there, but you're going to see shapes. And down here at the bottom, these shapes tell us how long a pitch lasts for. So when we're playing a melody, it's important that we play the right note, but it's also important that we hold that note for the right amount of time. So as we get started, we're going to be playing with whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes. And you'll see some of this there on page 8. But I've got these drawn here. A whole note is like an open oval. A half note has a stem attached to the open oval. It can go downwards or upwards. And then a quarter note is a solidly filled in oval shape with that stem, and that's worth 1 count. So drawn up here is an example on that B line that sits right in the middle of the staff. I've got a whole note. So if we saw that whole note there drawn on that B line, we would know that we would play a B note, the B note that line represents on guitar, which we'll be learning about, for 4 counts. And here I've got 2 half notes. So we play each one of those for 2 counts each. And then I got 4 quarter notes, and we play each one of those B notes, they're all on the B line, for 1 count each. So sort of in relation to each other, and it can help to count the beats, which I'll talk about here in a second. But just as an example, I would have this B, 2, 3, 4, and then B, 2, B, 2, and then B, 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 B. That's how that works. Now, with this music notation, we have measures of time, equal increments, and those are indicated here in the music by these vertical lines, known as measure lines or bar lines. So each one of these spaces in between those measure lines or bar lines is known as a measure or a bar. And we're going to have an equal number of beats between each one of those. And that helps us in music and the groove of our music. All these things come together with most of the music that we play having some sort of thing around a time feel or a meter. And we've got a groove that goes with that, especially when we're playing with the band. So this helps us keep track in written music of where the music or where the notes sit within that. So I have something that tells us how many beats are going to be inside each one of these measures, and that's known as a time signature. Now we're going to get into time signatures more and more as we play different songs in different time signatures. But the one that we play with the most is 4/4 time, and I have that written here at the beginning. This tells us, the top number there tells us that there are 4 beats in a measure or 4 counts in a measure. And the bottom number tells us 4 counts of what. So you can easily sort of figure this out by turning it into a fraction. A 1 over a 4 is 1/4. So that's telling us that it's a quarter note. So we're going to have 4 quarter notes per measure. And if that's a little confusing, it's okay. You don't need to totally understand it yet. But we are going to be playing a lot in 4/4 time. We're going to have 4 counts per measure, 4 beats per measure that are the equivalent of 4 quarter notes. So with that, that means we can have anything that will add up to 4 quarter notes per measure. So a whole note has 4 counts, so 1 whole note. Or a half note has 2, so 2 half notes. Or 4 quarter notes. We could also have 1 half note and 2 quarter notes in a measure. Later on when we learn about dots, which add an extra beat, for example, to the half note, if we add a dot there, we could have 1 dotted half note and then 1 quarter note. We're going to see that as we're playing some songs in some lessons that come down the road. So, as simple as that, we've got the rhythmic shape of a note drawn on a line or space telling us what pitch that we're playing because of where it's located on the staff, and then how long we're going to hold that pitch for, and that's how that works. And we're going to start working as we do, like in the next video, we're going to be learning just 1, 2, 3 notes at a time, and we're going to be working them into the melodies and exercises that we're reading. It's going to be awesome. Before we're able to do that, I'm going to explain sort of a helpful tablature diagram system that exists throughout the book and really in a lot of different method books, a lot of different written music that can help you figure out these notes. So within the book, to help you identify where you're going to be playing a specific note, it's going to show up kind of like this. You're going to have a pitch name with the pitch. That pitch name isn't always written down below the staff, but that's the way I have it up here on the board. But for example, this is a G note. It's sitting on that G line. And it tells us that the name of that note is G. And then up above, we've got this tablature diagram that's telling us where to play that on the guitar. So this is how the tablature diagrams work. And if you're familiar with playing chords on the guitar, the tablature diagrams work the same. But we have these spaces, and each one of those represents a fret. So the first fret, second fret, and third fret, this lines up just like so on the guitar fretboard. So that highest space is fret 1, 2, 3. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 if there was a 4th space, which we'll eventually actually get to notes that are in the 4th fret. Then that would be there would be a 4th fret there. Then we have these vertical lines starting from the right to the left. We get strings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So high to low. So string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then, with that, you're going to have either an open circle above it. If you have the open circle above it, it tells us to play that string open. And then otherwise, you're going to have a black dot drawn on there, and then we'll have a finger suggesting written above it on which finger to use. That finger right now in this book is going to match the fret that you're at, because ideally as we're playing these notes in first position or the open position, we're going to want to play the notes in the first fret with our index finger, the notes in the second fret with our middle finger, the notes in the third fret with our ring finger, and the notes in the fourth fret with our pinky. So with our numbering system, 1 represents index, 2 middle, 3 ring, and 4 pinky. And as we're getting started with this, that is going to match, those fingers are actually going to match what fret we're at. So down here we have an F note on that low space, and it's showing us that it's on the 4th string at the 3rd fret, and I would put my ring finger there, my 3rd finger there. So that's how those diagrams work, and you can see that explained there on page 9. These are going to be helping us as we're learning the different notes on the guitar. Alright, it's going to be awesome. In the next video, we're going to get started with E, F, and G, reading some different songs, some different exercises using these rhythmic values. It's going to be super fun. So I'll see you in that next video. Thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to check out more great content. You can find more information about me and my products at KristenBromley.com. Take care.